Good morning. I'm Doug Vincent, a member of the Reproductive Justice team. My pronouns are he and his. I'm an older white man wearing a blue shirt and yellow tie. Welcome to First Unitarian Church, where our mission is to explore the eternal, nurture community, and pursue the common good. We welcome you in your brokenness and in your wholeness. No matter who you are, who you have been, or who you are becoming, we greet you today with love. I'd like to extend a special welcome to everyone who is watching us on YouTube this morning. During the prelude, please introduce yourself in the comments and let us know where you're joining us from. If you're in Oklahoma City, what neighborhood are you in? Or if you're elsewhere, what city are you in? And now the prelude prepares us for worship.
Our chalice is lit this morning by the Daniels family. Rebecca and Keith are accompanying Victor, who celebrated his 10th birthday on January 14th. Let's say happy birthday to Victor.
We light our chalice in Midtown Oklahoma City on land that was home to first Americans, including the Apache, the Caddo, and the Wichita, on land that was taken from the Muskogee and Seminole and other removed and relocated peoples. We light the chalice as a symbol of our sacred time together. The burning chalice represents the light of reason and science, the warmth of loving community, the cleansing heat of justice, and the flame of hope.
Would you join me this morning in a moment of silence to remember the victims of another mass shooting, this time last night in Los Angeles at a celebration for the Lunar New Year? May we take these tragedies as an opportunity to recommit to the work of justice and the work against gun violence. Again, welcome. Buenos dias. I am Reverend Diana Davies, and my pronouns are she, her. I am a white woman in my 50s, and today I'm not wearing my clerical robe. I am wearing my stole, and I am collared up. You don't usually see me with a collar, This is my justice armor because I will be going straight from the service today to the rally at the Capitol, bigger than Roe, and I hope to see many of you there. And then this afternoon I'll be going straight from that to the Voice Delegates Assembly at Greater Mount Olive Church. Many of you already know about the important work of Voice. We are a member of this interfaith community organizing group. If you'd like to learn more about what Voice is doing, I encourage you and invite you to attend that assembly at Greater Mount Olive this afternoon at 3 o'clock. Our service today falls on what would have been the 50th anniversary of the Supreme Court decision of Roe versus Wade, which effectively legalized abortion throughout the United States. As we know all too well, that decision was overruled last June, and in Oklahoma, abortion is now illegal in the vast majority of cases. Even though our state already has some of the most restrictive laws in the country, activists are bracing for even more draconian bills to be presented in the upcoming legislative session. In the words of our UUA president, Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, this is no time for a casual faith. This is a time when we must side with love, with our voices, with our votes, with our time, with our very bodies. This next hour is a time to rest, to reflect, to sing together, to pray or meditate together, to be reminded that none of us is alone in the struggle or in life. Our words of welcome were written by the Reverend Deborah Hafner. You are welcome here.
If you are straight, gay, lesbian, bisexual, intersexual, demisexual, pansexual, or asexual, or resist labels completely, you are whole and welcome here.
If you are transgender, non-binary, genderqueer, cisgender, you are whole and welcome here.
If you are confused about your sexuality, have questions, struggle in an intimate relationship, or struggle because you aren't in one, you are whole and welcome here.
If you have had an abortion or an unintended pregnancy, had a miscarriage, have AIDS or HIV, struggle with infertility or sexual dysfunction, you are whole and welcome here.
If you've been the victim of sexual abuse, sexual harassment, or sexual assault, you are whole and welcome here.
If you have made sexual decisions or had behaviors that you regret, you are welcome here.
Your sexuality is holy and sacred and an integral part of who you are. You are whole and welcome here.
As Unitarian Universalists, we side with you, love you, and fight for your rights.
We seek to create a world where sexuality and sexual diversity is celebrated with holiness and integrity.
Would you please rise in body or in spirit to sing our opening hymn? It's number 211 in the gray hardbound hymnal, We Are Climbing Jacob's Ladder.
We Every rung goes higher, higher. Every rung goes higher, higher. Every rung goes higher, higher. We are climbing on. If I stumble, will you help me? If I stumble, will you help me? If I stumble, will you help me? We are climbing on. Though the road is steep and rugged, though the road is steep and rugged, though the road is steep and rugged, we are climbing.
Please be seated.
Our beginning of our time for all ages is adapted from Ashley Hamlin. When I arrived this morning, I was thinking about all the things my body had already done. My heart has beat around 14,000 times since I woke up. And did you know it pumps about 2 ounces of blood for every heartbeat? And by the end of the day, it will have pumped around 2,500 gallons of blood. My lungs will have expanded with oxygen about 20,000 times. All right, I want everyone to blink your eyes. Boop. Did you know that your brain recognized the sounds I'm making 10 times faster than you just blinked? Our bodies are amazing. I want you to think of what you are proudest of that your body can do. And now let's think about who is in charge of all of that amazingness, all of that power which is our body. Who is in charge of that? That's right. Our body belongs to us, and we are the only one who's in charge of it. So what does that mean for how we interact with each other? Since we respect each other and honor our inherent worth and dignity, we also honor each other's autonomy. That means our right to do our own choices and actions with our body. Like during coffee hour, we would never make an announcement that every person was required to drink a cup of coffee, right? But we would give each person the opportunity to drink a cup of coffee. But it would be up to each individual whether or not they wanted to drink that coffee. So now I invite you to reflect for a moment. You're welcome to close your eyes if it's helpful, and think of a moment when you had a choice to make and what it felt like to have the right to decide for yourself how you would choose. What does that feel like in your body? And now a simple practice. In just a minute, I'm going to invite you to turn to a neighbor and ask if you can give them a fist bump. They are completely free to respond in a kind way, yes or no. And keep in mind, no is our right and not a reflection on the other person. So no hard feelings. Go ahead, ask away. You want a fist bump, Barbara? Sure. Thank you, Barbara. All right. So that may seem like a simple practice and a simple exercise. And that simple exercise is one that we use to teach consent, one of the important topics we cover in OWL, which is short for Our Whole Lives. Honest, accurate information about sexuality changes lives. It dismantles stereotypes and assumptions, builds self-acceptance and self-esteem, fosters healthy relationships, improves decision-making, and has the potential to save lives. For these reasons and more, we're proud to offer the Our Whole Lives, a comprehensive lifespan sexuality education curricula for use in both secular and faith communities. Our Whole Lives helps participants make informed and responsible decisions about their relationships, sexual health, and behavior. With a holistic approach, Our Whole Lives provides accurate, developmentally appropriate information about a range of topics, including relationships, gender identity and expression, sexual orientation, sexual health, and cultural influences on sexuality. We're currently offering OWL on Wednesday nights for our middle schoolers and for our early elementary students. And just last month, we wrapped up grades 4 through 6 OWL. We're proud that we've gotten OWL relaunched after the pandemic, and we hope to begin offering OWL for young adults, adults, and elder adults in the coming years after we get more facilitators trained up. You have to be specially trained to be able to teach this class. So a quick poll, how many adults here had, or by adult, I mean over 18. So how many folks over the age of 18 had a question about their bodies, about sex, about sexuality, about gender? Well, you get the idea. How many folks had questions when you were under 18? Just raise your hand, all right? Now, keep your hand raised if you had a safe place, free from judgment, where you could ask these questions. All right, just a few hands raised, and this is why we do OWL. We want to be a safe place where people of all ages can explore and learn about an essential component of being human. And let's face it, there aren't a whole lot of places inside of Oklahoma where youth can learn about and explore their gender identity, where they will be valued and appreciated just as they are. It's why over the coming years, my hope is that we begin to offer OWL more intentionally to our wider community. That's something we can do right now to save the lives of children and youth in Oklahoma City. This is something we can do right now to help with the mental health crises facing our youth. Helping kids discover and celebrate their identity in a culture that right now is telling them that their identity is wrong is life-saving work. Teaching about healthy relationships is life-saving work. Teaching accurate information about sex and STIs is life-saving work. Our Whole Lives is life-saving work. So how can you support the Our Whole Lives program here at First Unitarian? Well, first and foremost, I want you to join me in thanking all of our OWL facilitators who have been teaching, with a special thanks to this year's facilitators of Mordecai, Bill, Zell, Charlie, Terry, and Tempe. Thank you all. You can tell your friends and neighbors that this program exists. Refer folks to our website to learn more about OWL. If you are personally passionate about sexuality education and reproductive justice, we are certainly looking for more volunteers to get trained in how to teach OWL. We need more at all levels, and if that might interest you, please talk to me or email me and we can set up a time to chat about it. Join one of our OWL classes, whichever is appropriate for your stage of life, and we're able to offer them. Find a book about sexuality education and read it, and if you loved it, donate a copy to the church. Commit to always learning more about your own sexuality. And if none of those are your cup of tea, your continued financial support to our church helps make OWL happen and will help us grow OWL in the future. So in honor of OWL, as we head up to our Sunday morning religious exploration classes, join me in some light hooting before we begin singing. Hoot, hoot! All right, please, now is the time for our children and youth and teachers to head on up to our religious exploration classes. Please join us in singing Go Now in Peace.
Good morning. My name's Laura Lochner, and I am filling in for Deborah Shin, who has a sore throat today. I am a member of the First Unitarian Reproductive Justice team, which is led by myself and Susan Bishop. The Reproductive Justice team advocates for legislative change, advocates for health care, which reflects our right to self-determination, and provides and participates in education opportunities both within our church and within the community. This spring, our team will be offering a reproductive justice workshop based on a curriculum developed by SACRED, which stands for the Spiritual Alliance of Communities for Reproductive Dignity. Please watch the weekly newsletter and the church's website and Facebook group for more information. Every Sunday we take an offering. Since 2002, all the cash and designated checks from that offering have gone directly to external nonprofit organizations doing good work, our Change for Change partners. For the month of January, our Change for Change partner is Lillian Timber Farms. Lillian Timber Farms is an educational and sustainable farm dedicated to growing and creating organic produce and products for healthy living practices in underserved communities. Their mission is to foster and create community through teaching and learning sustainable gardening and farming practices and through project-based programming. For those of you who are in the sanctuary with us today, in just a moment we'll be passing the offering plate. And if you're watching online with us, please make your gift by sending a check to First Unitarian. Just write Change for Change on the memo line, or make an online payment through our website, 1UC.org. Okay, I want to introduce a little bit about reproductive justice. As Unitarian Universalists, we embrace the reproductive justice framework, which espouses the human right to have children, not to have children, to parent the children one has in healthy environments, and to safeguard bodily autonomy and express one's sexuality freely. The reproductive justice movement was founded at a time when the unique range of issues faced by women of color were not addressed by the predominantly white, middle-class women's rights and reproductive rights movements, nor the predominantly male civil rights movement. Those issues have included forced sterilization, forced contraception, and higher rates of removal of children from families due to accusations of abuse or neglect. These issues, coupled with systemic racism, have frequently made parenting or co-parenting more difficult due to many factors, including but not limited to discriminatory and unequal implementation of laws and incarceration rates, prohibitions imposed on people after incarceration, unjust immigration policies, and economic insecurity. Reproductive justice is the term created by women of color in 1994 to center the experience of the most vulnerable and to bridge the gap between reproductive rights and other social justice movements. Unitarian Universalists support gender equity, positive sexuality, diverse sexual expression, and the individual's right to make reproductive choices. Such choices are influenced by social and political systems, as well as by factors such as racial, cultural identity, economic status, immigration/citizenship status, relationship with the justice system, health status, and ability. Our religious tradition directs us to respect the diversity of faith traditions that surround us and insists that no singular religious viewpoint or creed guide the policies of our governments. Our pluralistic congregations include diverse beliefs, backgrounds, and personal stories. Yet we unite in striving to live out the values and principles that call us to work for reproductive justice in spite of the complexities of these issues.
In the space of our prayer or meditation today, I'd like to offer you a body blessing, which was created by my colleague, Reverend Lisa Beauvais-Kemper. I invite you to touch your hands or touch your hand to your forehead, if it feels natural. May you be blessed with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. May your intellect take you far on your journey. You have been blessed with reason and free will. It is your call every day to use these gifts. And now I invite you to touch your throat. May you be blessed with voice. May you learn the complex nature of truth-telling. The ability to speak the truth in love is something that requires honesty, empathy, and care. You are challenged every day to seek the joy that comes with sharing your truth compassionately, as well as listening to others. I invite you to touch your heart. May your heart be full and blessed with love. May you know the agony of heartbreak as it is intertwined with the elation of true love. Your heart is a strong and resilient organ, one that will be with you until the end of your time on earth. May you heed the wisdom of your heart and always trust the truth that it tells. Now I invite you to put a hand on your belly. You are blessed with the gift of sexuality. May you always remember that you are a beloved child of God. Your body is sacred and belongs to you alone. May you live into the full expression of your identity as a human being, embracing your true sexual and gender identity. The gift of sexuality brings with it many rewards as well as great responsibility. May you always retain power over your own being, striving toward mutually fulfilling and just relationship. Now, if you'll hold out your hands and look at your hands. When you were a baby, your tiny hands were your first contact with the world. Before you could see more than a few feet in front of your face, you grasped the finger of a loved one. You catch yourself with your hands when you fall. You express love and comfort to others with them too. May your hands be gentle and strong. May you use them to carry light into the darkness and rest to the weary. May your hands always find the place of greatest need, beginning with your own. And may the Creator of all things hold you in the palm of the Creator's hand wherever you go. And I invite you, if it feels okay, to wrap your arms around your body. May you be blessed in your journey. May you remember that growth happens on the journey and that you are never alone. May you always remember that you are a whole person, that each of these parts work together. We offer our blessings upon you, body, mind, and spirit. May you be guided by compassion and truth, justice and love. May you find rest on the journey, always remembering where you came from, being mindful that your ancestors stand behind you. Whether we are present on earth or have gone back to the soul of the world, may you be blessed in all things and carry blessings with you wherever you go. May it be so. I was in college, and I had dreams of going into the Peace Corps and one day working for the State Department. And I was a good, if not exceptional, student, super involved in politics and social justice issues. And I had good friends, a sweet boyfriend, and we were careful, but things happen. And one month, my period was late, and I was worried, terrified, actually, that I was pregnant. And this was back in the 1980s, so I couldn't just go online and find out about my options. I didn't get emails from the campus health clinic telling me what services they provided. There weren't emails. I couldn't anonymously post a question on social media. I had a vague understanding that abortion was an option, but I didn't know where I might get one, how I'd get there, or how much it would cost. And for some reason, I didn't think to go to the clinic for a pregnancy test. I might not have even known that was a possibility. I had absolutely no idea what to do. So I prayed. Every night, I prayed hard. And I cried. And I made deals with God. If He, and God was a He, capital H for me back then, if He would just relieve me of this terrible burden, if He would just make me not pregnant, and then I wouldn't need to make a terrible choice. Because I did see abortion as a choice. It just was one I didn't want to make. Despite my liberal politics and my disdain for organized religion at that time, in a time of great stress and fear, it was my embedded theology, the religion of my upbringing, that emerged. And that was a theology full of hell and sin and condemnation. That was a religion that saw abortion as an irredeemable sin. And so what I prayed for was not to have to make that hard decision. I prayed that the choice would be removed from me. And in the end, it turned out I wasn't pregnant after all. And my life went on. And while I didn't end up in the State Department, I ended up exactly where I want to be and where I think I should be. And I've shared this personal story with you, partly because it's important to be able to talk about reproductive choices in a public setting, especially from behind a pulpit, to help strip the topic of its stigma. But I also decided to share it because I think it highlights the dangers of seeing abortion as just a matter of choice. Now, technically, legally, back then, it was a little more than 10 years after the Roe decision, I had a choice. I could have had an abortion safely and completely legally. In Indiana, where I lived and studied, there were close to 30 clinics offering abortions at that time, some of them quite nearby. And I'm not sure if I would have run into parental consent laws at that time, but even if so, I could have found a way to get across the state line to Kentucky, which didn't have such laws. I had a supportive boyfriend with a car. I didn't have a job I couldn't miss for a day. I could have come up with an excuse for missing a few classes. I probably could have come up with the money. On the other hand, had I been pregnant, I probably could have chosen to give birth without it ending in disaster. I had a couple of years of college under my belt, and I'd already had a really solid high school education. I was white, straight, cisgender, healthy, with no disabilities, native speaker of English, US citizen. The economy was strong. Childcare would have been a problem, but I think I would have been able to find a job. I had a boyfriend who wasn't abusive and wouldn't abandon me. I don't think I would have been destitute. So yes, I had a real, honest-to-God choice. And yet, I prayed for that choice to be removed from me because it was too terrible. Because there was another factor, which was religion. Religion that carried with it a huge amount of guilt and condemnation and fear of eternal damnation. So even with so much working in my favor, my choice was limited by the beliefs that had been instilled in me as a child. My point is this: even when Roe was the law of the land, choice was always relative. Some people had a lot more than others. Had I been a person of color, indigenous, trans, queer, poor, without access to education, without access to basic health care, in an abusive relationship, an immigrant, especially an undocumented one, a person with disabilities, a person without access to a car, or any combination of those things, my choice would have been severely constrained. Regardless of the law, I might have had no real choice at all. And I don't just mean that I might not have been able to choose to have an abortion. I might not have had the choice to have a child or to raise that child in safe and healthy conditions. Because the reality is that for far too many people, for far too long, even before the Dobbs decision, sexual autonomy has not been a right. Gender freedom has not been a right. For far too many people, for far too long, parenting children in safe and healthy conditions has been a dream, not an expectation. For far too many people, for far too long, there's been no real choice to have a child or to not have a child. For far too many people, including people of color, Native Americans, immigrants, and incarcerated people, there hasn't been a choice to have a child, since they have faced sterilization against their will or had their children taken away from them. Choice only has meaning if it is available to everyone, not only to some. Choice only has meaning if it isn't limited to the choice not to do something, but includes the choice to do something, including the choice to have a wanted child. The choice to have or not have a child only matters if every person making that decision can do so knowing that one path doesn't end in the kind of poverty that can never be escaped. It is time that we stop focusing only on choice and shift our focus to justice. It is past time that we expand our scope beyond the right to an abortion to the simple right to be a person with a body who chooses what they do with that body. The simple right to be a person with access to basic health care, to keep that body healthy, and to manage their own fertility. The simple right to be a sexual being in whatever way that yearns to be expressed or not. The simple right to know that if we bring a child into this world, we can have some expectation that our society, our community, our country is invested in that precious life beyond the moment of conception, beyond the moment of birth, throughout that person's entire life. This, after all, is what it means to be pro-life, to love other lives in all their complexity, from birth to adulthood to old age, to love and honor women's lives and girls' lives and trans lives and intersex lives and the lives of people of all races and ethnicities, to love the lives of people who are poor or disabled or undocumented or incarcerated or whose faith is different from our own, to love people's lives by fighting for their freedom, for health care, for education, for a living wage, for safe and secure housing. We cannot allow some people who seem focused only on life before birth to wear the mantle of pro-life without question or complaint. They do not own faith or family or values, and they certainly do not own life. And it is time that we take those words back. In 1946, German Lutheran pastor Martin Niemöller wrote a confessional piece that was later given a more poetic form. You know it. First, they came for the socialist, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. And then they came for the trade unionist, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. And then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. After the Dobbs decision, like many of you, I imagine, I walked around for several days in a state of shock. And then the restricted laws started being passed, each one crueler, more surreal in a way, more like something out of A Handmaid's Tale than the last. And I found myself wondering, how did we get here? Well, the Roe versus Wade decision happened 50 years ago, and many people celebrated because they now had a choice. But just 3 years after that, the Hyde Amendment was passed, which barred the use of federal Medicaid funds to pay for abortion, making abortion inaccessible to many low-income people. But not everyone is low income. And then other restrictions came. Military personnel and their dependents and Peace Corps volunteers lost access. But most people, after all, are civilians. Federal prisoners lost access, but they committed crimes. People who depend on the Indian Health Service, teens receiving care through the Children's Health Insurance Program, disabled people enrolled in Medicaid, all lost their choice. But each of these populations is relatively small. And so it went. Federal employees and their dependents, young people, people who live in red states. Where does it end? What if all of this is a chance to try again? What if this time, instead of fighting for the rights of some of us, we can fight for the rights and the lives of all of us. Fight not just for choice, but for justice, for the right not to have a child, the right to have a child, the right to parent children in safe and healthy environments. Demand sexual autonomy and gender freedom for every single person. Because the adage is true, none of us is free until all of us are free. I'd like to invite members of our reproductive justice team up to the lectern to share a reading with you. This is by Reverend Julia Hamilton, called "Abortion is a Blessing."
Abortion is not just a deeply personal choice and a fundamental right, but it can also be a blessing. It is a life-saving medical procedure. It is a choice that can help heal from violence. It is a doorway to a different life. It is a blessing to so many people who, for whatever reason, are not in a position to have a child.
So I say thank you and bless you to all those doctors and nurses and clinicians who have provided abortion care, often at great personal risk.
I say thank you and bless you to all those who have stood at the doors of clinics and escorted patients with love and compassion in the face of hate and shame.
I say thank you and bless you to all the friends, partners, and family members who have supported loved ones through the process.
I say thank you and bless you to all the elected officials, activists, and organizers who fight year after year to keep abortion legal, safe, and available to all who need it.
And I say thank you and bless you to all of you here today who have had an abortion. You are loved and supported in your choice and in the life that you live today because of that choice.
As we go forth from this moment and out into this beautiful and heartbreaking world, we are renewed by the strength we have found in one another. We will fight shame with love. We will fight violence with compassion. We will fight language of domination with songs of liberation and grace. And we know that we are not singing alone. Again, please rise in body or in spirit for our closing hymn, number 168, One More Step.
One more step, we will take one more step, till there is peace for us and everyone. We'll take one more step. One more word, we will say one more word. Every word is heard by everyone. We'll say one more word. One more prayer, we will say
We extinguish our chalice flame, but not the light of love and community which burns in our hearts. Go now in peace, go in persistence, go in power. Make a difference. May it be so. Amen.